Oh, hello there. Nice of you to join me once more. Okay, today we're going to be reviewing this little number, Beyond Tomorrow, an anthology of science fiction short stories, edited by Lee Harding. Now, this was originally published back in 1976 in Australia to commemorate the 33rd World Fantasy Convention. This edition was published a year later, 1977, and it's a New English Library edition. Now, I bought this completely by mistake. I was looking for some Philip K. Dick novels back along, and this one popped up. I just saw the cover and I saw Beyond Tomorrow, and I thought, bloody hell, I've never heard of that one before. So I just bought the devil. I didn't realise that he's just one of a number of authors in this anthology. Also, it has quite an interesting cover, I think you'll agree. That's the cover there. That's my one. There's only been a couple of other ones as far as I can tell online, but I'll pop them up a bit later on. But what we're going to do today, or what I'm going to try to do, is very quickly look at each and every short story. They'll probably be over here. I'll take a photograph of the front page, the contents page, and we're going to rate them as we go. So let's get on with it. I should say, actually, before we even begin here, that there is a foreword in this edition by Isaac Asimov, in which he gives a kind of potted history of the beginnings of the golden age of science fiction, and the fact that Australia specifically completely missed out on this golden age due to the Second World War and an imbalance of the value of the dollar. So yeah, the Second World War started, and the import of science fiction, amongst other things, from America was prohibited. So yeah, they missed out. And I think the same kind of scenario applied to Britain as well. So this is a kind of re-education, I suppose, of 70s science fiction readers, if you will, in Australia. But anyway, I don't know much about the Golden Age either, so it gave me a nice little insight. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's get on with it. Okay, let's kick off with the first one, Idiot Stick by Damon Knight. This was originally published back in 1958. Quite a short story. It's one of those, for me, slightly tedious one-liners, slightly glib. A kind of a fairly interesting lead-up to a joke with a shit punchline. So there's it's like a first contact kind of story. A great big spaceship lands in Central Park in New York, I think that's where it's set. And so they enlist the local populace to work for them to construct some strange building for them. And so they give everyone, all the willing participants, these tools, special tools, which are quite miraculous. And they're able to kind of very gradually form this building by layer upon layer. And this tool can create different materials at will, apparently. And it's basically the humans using the tools against the aliens when things turn a bit dicey, shall we say. But I didn't like it. I gave this one 2 out of 5. Okay, the next one is 9 Lives by Ursula Le Guin, which first appeared back in 1970 in World's Best Science Fiction. This is a very heavily revised version of that, apparently. Also, it says in the back of this book. And it's about clones. So I think it was a set of 9 clones, potentially. And they're working on a distant, hellish world, prospecting for uranium. And they're working with a couple of other human chaps who may or may not be having a homosexual relationship. Not quite sure. I can't remember. There was something about that. Already the thoughts of these stories are waning. And very early on in the story, all of the clones are killed in an accident, barring one. So one clone's left on their own. And it's about the isolation felt by that one clone losing all of its siblings which fuck each other, actually. So similar themes, actually, to Kate Wilhelm's Where Late the Sweet Birds Sang, but nowhere near as good as that. Obviously, there's only so much you can do within a short story anyway, but for me, the main problem was the dialogue and just the style of the writing. It was so hard to know what was going on at times. And the only other book I've read of Ursula Le Guin's is The Lave of Heaven. I read it about 10 years ago and I really liked it. And it wasn't written anything like that. So I have no idea what the hell was going on with this one. I gave this one 1 out of 5. Trite. All right then. So the third one is The Commuter by Philip K. Dick. I'll tell you right away, I gave this 5 out of 5. I absolutely loved it. It was really short, but it packed one hell of a punch. I've gave this one 5 out of 5. Now, a number of years ago, there was a BBC dramatisation of this short story featuring the wonderful Timothy Spall. I don't know if any of you caught that, but I watched it when it was first broadcast. Absolutely loved it. And as soon as I started reading this one, I realised that these were one and the same story. So it begins at the very beginning with a ticket office in a train station. And this businessman comes up and asks for a ticket to a town that doesn't exist. Now, the commuter gets very annoyed when the ticket office says, well, there's no such place. This man then promptly just vanishes. So, bit of a mystery. The next day, he comes back again, asks for the same ticket. The ticket office chap becomes really suspicious and decides to take the journey himself. So where this town should have been, there's nothing there. It's just fields. But it stops in the middle of this nowhere and some people get off and start walking off across these fields. Very, very strange. So it's about a kind of alternate timelines that are kind of merging at this one point. Oh, it was so good. And also for me, it's interesting because I have lots of dreams that are based on places I know that are slightly skewed in some way. Obviously, it's just dreams, but it's the same kind of idea in that it looks familiar. It has the kind of same structure as a city or a town that you might be familiar with, but there's areas that you've never damn well seen before. So it's like where I used to live back in Cornwall. There was a petrol station. My sister used to work there. And I knew that behind this petrol station, there was nothing there. There was waste ground and then there was houses. And in my dream, there was far more beyond. There was like parks and whatnot. Obviously, it's just my mind building on that. On the fringes of known space, I suppose. It's filling in what's there. But there could be an alternate timeline where there is parks behind there. Who knows? Anyway, 5 out of 5. Cracking. Okay, next one. The Oath by James Blish. I've got loads of James Blish in my collection, but I've never read any of his stuff. This is the first thing. And it was really, really quite nice. Post-apocalyptic setting. This was published back in 1960, by the way. And it's about a community that have enlisted a chap as their doctor, although he has got no medical background whatsoever, but he's using supplies and he's helping people where he can. And I won't go into too much of this, but it's about this doctor's perception of what is worth curing and what's not worth curing. So this is the end. This is after some horrible apocalypse and everyone's just clinging on, really. And so rather than trying to help someone with diabetes, for example, he just tells them to just carry on as normal. And so they're kind of oblivious of their condition. But he knows that, there's no way of fully curing this person. They may as well just go off into the dust, shall we say. So it's a kind of it's turning the usual doctor's philosophies on its head just to fit this new scenario that they're living through. I've butchered that, but you get the idea. I gave it 3 out of 5, but the writing was wonderful, so I'm going to get onto a bit more Blish in the future. Okay, Takeover Bid. Right, that was by John Baxter. I haven't heard of him either. I believe he's an Australian author, so I think they sprinkled some Australian authors into this anthology to make it more appealing to Australians, perhaps. I don't know. The writing was okay, but the story was, again, it was confusing. I found it a bit confusing, and it's about someone that's sent experimental technology, force fields, allowing this astronaut to travel up into space frictionlessly, I think, something like that. Anyway, something goes wrong. He comes back and he's completely mad. And they're trying to work out why. The reason behind his madness is quite interesting towards the end, but I didn't really enjoy it, so I gave it 2 out of 5. Okay, next comes Now the Power by Roger Zelazne. Zelazne? Is that how you pronounce it? I've never known how to pronounce it properly. Anyway, this was originally published in the Magazine of Horror back in 1966. This is probably the shortest of all of the stories, perhaps only 2 pages long, but it packed one hell of a punch. I bloody loved it. I gave this 5 out of 5. And it's about a man who's a telepath, so he can communicate with people just using his mind. He can hear people's thoughts, and for whatever reason his powers have gone and he is going crazy about it. I suppose it's like a normal human losing one of their main senses, so he's really distraught. But anyway, this voice comes from the ether, and so it's another nearby telepath that's broadcasting thoughts to him. Now, the person who's broadcasting this stuff doesn't know that they're telepathic, and he eventually finds them. And it's a really bittersweet story when you find out who this person is. It packed a punch, I must say. And the writing was wonderful. But it just shows the strength of this. I mean, it's a very short format, obviously, isn't it? It's a short story format. And this is just a couple of pages, and yet it really moved me. So, yeah, really wonderful, really wonderful. Incidentally, I've tried reading one of his other, was it The Power and the Light, or the Light? No, the Lord of Light. I tried reading that. I found it completely inaccessible, which is a shame. Is it easier to read as you're going along? I don't know. There were lots of mentions of Hindu gods and things like that, and I thought, do I need to know a background in the Hindu gods and various things like that? I felt like I was out of my depth, but just reading that short story made me want to read more of him. So if I should try again at that, have another crack at it, let me know. Or if there's a more accessible version for a simpleton like me, please let me know. I said I was going to rattle through these, didn't I? But bloody hell. Right, I'll try and do it a bit quicker. Okay, the next one is Litterbug by Tony Morphett. Originally published in 1969 in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. I gave this one 3 out of 5. Now, this is a kind of a comedy, really. It's about a man that's created a teleportation device, and he's using it as a means of waste disposal. So he's selling this thing as a way of just chucking anything in there, it just disappears. Anyway, all this rubbish ends up, unbeknownst to him, on a far planet, civilized planet, and before you know it, they start throwing their rubbish back again. Quite an interesting concept, but this kind of light-hearted, comedic science fiction, I'm not really interested in, personally. But there we are, 3 out of 5. Okay, right, the next one was an utter dog. I absolutely hated it. Mother Hitton's Little Kittons by Cordwainer Smith, originally published in 1961. I gave this 1 out of 5. It was complete tosh. I can't even be bothered to tell you what the hell it's about. No, I can't be bothered. It's crap. If you like it, please tell me why you liked it, because I hated it, absolutely hated it. So, Mother Hitton's Little Kittens. I mean, it sounds like she was given this author. I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, Cordwainer. I can't tell from the name, but it's like they were set. They took a bet. Right, give me a title and I'll write a story about it. What about Mother Hitton's Little Kittens written in that stupid way? Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, and it's absolute crap. Anyway, there we are. 1 out of 5. Okay, what's next? A Song Before Sunset by David Grigg. Published back in 1975, so a year before this was originally published. David Grigg, never heard of him, never read him, but it was absolutely brilliant. So, post-apocalyptic setting, again. Civilization's completely gone to the dogs. People are just scraping by, breaking into buildings, rifling through what's left. There's some commerce with things that are found, and there's trading, bartering, that kind of thing. Anyway, this is about a former pianist who discovers a way into an old concert hall that's otherwise inaccessible. And he finds a grand piano. So it's about him bringing that back to use just so he can play it again. Really, really wonderful. And a kind of is it a tragic end? It is a tragic ending. There's a bit of a spoiler there, but it brings everything to focus. What's lost when civilization is brought so low. You know, the arts, the things that people, the indulgence of art and music appreciation, and what is filled by that void, the brutality of it. Anyway, that was wonderful. Okay, we got some Silverberg in here. Sundance. Yeah, it was okay. Originally 1969, this one. And it's about a crew of people that are tasked with exterminating the alien life forms on a planet so that it can be used for human occupation. These aliens are very odd things. They just go about their own daily activities. They don't really understand them. They think that they're docile. They think they're unintelligent, like animals. And so they think it's fine to just wipe them out. And they've got a way of doing it that's really easy. You just spray this stuff over them. They just melt away to nothing. And it's about one of the crew members feeling terrible about this situation, so decides to start taking time out to observe them, and eventually becomes one with them, discovers that they have their own language and culture and rituals and all sorts of things. But then there's another kind of twist, and there's something potentially wrong mentally with this crewmate that's gone off kilter. Yeah, it was okay. It was interesting. But yeah, 3 out of 5. The O in Jose by Brian Aldiss from 1966. I've read a couple of Aldiss in the past, Non-Stop and Hot House. Both very good. This one is also very good. It's about 3 friends that have gone hiking up in the mountains. I think it's in Spain. I can't remember now. And they're each... They find this rock on this kind of precipice, on this cliff. And it's just the name, I think, Jose. And so each of them are kind of tasked with making up a story as to why that name appeared in that desolate place. It is quite interesting, quite well written. And each of the characters was really well defined. They each had their own kind of quirks. And yeah, the stories they told were also very interesting. Yeah, I liked it. 3 out of 5. Okay, we're getting towards the end now. Okay, this one is The Man Who Came Too Early by Poul Anderson, originally published in 1956. And it's about a man that has problem with premature ejaculation. No, it's not that at all. So in the future, or in contemporary times when this was written, I imagine, there's a nuclear war or a nuclear bomb's dropped, and a man is sent into the past, over 1,000 years into the past, and winds up in Viking times. So yeah, there you go. I think he's stationed perhaps in Sweden or somewhere like that, and so yeah, he winds up in Viking times. I really liked it. I mean, the way the Viking, they're telling a story, basically. The whole thing's told as a kind of tale around a campfire, I suppose. And they're talking about this strange man that just appeared out of nowhere, his strange customs, the way he had a strange accent, and his inability to understand the way they lived, and he was incapable of doing the most rudimentary things like, brandish weapons and I don't know what the various things Vikings do. I thought it was very well written. It must have been quite well researched as well. Yeah, it felt authentic. Unfortunate title though, but that's probably just because I've got a dirty mind. Anyway, I gave that one 4 out of 5. Okay, we are at the penultimate story here, Call Him Lord by Gordon Dickson, originally published in 1967. Now, this was by far my favourite story of the whole lot. Absolutely brilliant. Again, I've never heard of Gordon Dickson's work. I've since bought another one of his books just because I love this short story so much. The writing was really nice as well. Similar, I suppose, to Jack Vance in the Dying Earth scenario. So we've got people that are living quite simply, perhaps in a kind of a Western setting, I suppose. They're riding horses, they live simply, but there is technology around as well. And we have this character, I've forgotten all the names, I'm sorry, I'm terrible, I've got a terrible memory. Kyle Arnhem. Kyle Arnhem. And it's set in Kentucky. So he's tasked with looking after the son of the emperor of many worlds. So humanity's spread far and wide, hundreds of damn worlds, and there's obviously an emperor that rules them all. His son has come to Earth, which is kind of being kept as a museum planet, shall we say, and that's why they're all content to live in a more simple fashion. The son has come on holiday to spend a couple of days there. And Kyle is tasked with looking after him. And right at the beginning, there's this kind of interplay between Kyle and his wife is petrified about this scenario. The idea that Kyle's going to be having to look after this really important son. So there's implied doom associated with this. And right at the beginning, when we meet the son of the emperor, we know why. He's an obnoxious, arrogant bastard. And we're worrying about poor Kyle the whole way. There's a bloody good twist, that's all I'll say, right at the end. Oh, I absolutely loved it. His way of describing the son, the emperor, the son's emperor, is particularly wonderful. We really hate this boy. It reminds me of... no, I'm not going to say because I've forgotten. Some of the characters in Game of Thrones, you absolutely despise them. And there's a definite knack to describing characters that way, especially in a literary form. I've never quite managed it in my own writing, but to be able to absolutely hate someone is quite a skill. Anyway, call him Lord 5 out of 5. Okay, last but not least is J.G. Ballard, The Garden of Time, originally published in 1962. Absolutely love J.G. Ballard. Concrete Island, High Rise, Crash, those are my 3 favourites. This is a very, very, very short and sweet little story about quite a refined couple, shall we say, upper class, I imagine. They're living in a small manor house, I suppose, and on the horizon is an approaching army. They're going to breeze through and just destroy everything. They're going to be killed. It seems that's what's going to be happening. But every day, the gentleman goes outside and he has these time flowers. Now, these flowers, once picked, can make time flow backwards. It does. I don't know quite how this works, but so for them, everything proceeds as normal, so they're aware of the passage of time. But outside of their little bubble, the army then retreats back over the horizon. So they keep pushing back the inevitable destruction of their house and their lives. So that was quite nice, the way that was done within a very short space. I gave it 3 out of 5 just because you kind of knew what was coming right from the very beginning, but it was still lovely. But anyway, there we are. There's Beyond Tomorrow. I'm sorry, I bloody rambled. I'm going to try from now on to get my reviews down to at least 15 minutes, perhaps even 10. That would be nice, because I don't think anyone wants to sit through these great big long ones. But if you do, let me know, and I'll make them even longer. So, right, let's leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with something else. Cheerio.